If you want to go hiking in Mount Rainier National Park but aren't looking for anything too strenuous, then you're in luck. In today's episode, we're going to look at the 7 best easy hikes in Mount Rainier National Park. Now, I love to hike and I'm up for longer hikes, but not everybody is or does or can. So these are great Mount Rainier hikes for beginners, for people with young children, or people with limited mobility, or people who want to hike but not hike that much. And I'm going to share my number 1 easy hike at the end. Hi, I'm James Ian, and I've written numerous guides and published several itineraries for Mount Rainier National Park. By sharing my favorite Mount Rainier easy hikes, I'm going to help you decide which hikes that you want to include in your trip. You'll know exactly what to expect so that you can easily curate your own hiking list. You'll have peace of mind that you won't accidentally miss out on a wonderful hike that's within your comfort zone that you would have loved, and you also won't bite off something more than you can chew. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe right now. If you're watching or listening somewhere else, then follow my podcast to get the episodes as they come out. When you think of Mount Rainier, the obvious thing that comes to mind is the mountain. And when you think of mountains, you don't necessarily think of easy hikes. But these 7 trails prove that you don't need to be a hardcore hiker to experience the park's beauty. Each one of them offers something special. Each one is kind of different. So be sure to stay to the end where I'll be sharing my favorite easy hike in Mount Rainier National Park. I think you'll love it. Let's get started.
Welcome to National Parks Collecting with James Ian. He's a national park expert. He is here to help you have the best national parks trips ever. Get tips, discover hidden gems, and learn all you need to know. This is your path to collecting national parks experiences, memories, and maybe even a stamp or two.
So what's the first hike on my list? An easy hike in Mount Rainier National Park is the Trail of the Shadows. The Trail of the Shadows is in the Longmire section of the park, and it's just 0.7 miles long, so it's totally doable for most people. It's wheelchair and stroller friendly for most of the loop, and there are plenty of benches along the way if you need to sit and take a rest. The whole thing takes about 30 minutes, but I'd give yourself an hour to really check out all of the cool spots along the way. It starts right across from the Longmire Museum, and it's a flat loop trail that takes you through an old-growth forest. The path winds past bubbling mineral springs that smell slightly of sulfur. These are the same springs that drew James Longmire to build the area's first tourist resort in the area in the 1800s. That's kind of interesting. What makes this trail extra special is how it shows off the park's history. You'll pass the Longmire Cabin, which is the oldest structure still standing in the park. There are interpretive signs along the way that tell stories about the early days of tourism at Mount Rainier when people came to take the waters at the springs. This trail is open year-round, and it's one of the few lower elevation trails that stays accessible even in the winter. Next up, an easy to moderate trail in Mount Rainier National Park is the Naches Peak Loop trail. It's a 3.4 miles round trip. This is longer, so you do need to have some mobility for this trail, but it is still doable for many people with a little bit of effort. So you need to evaluate here. It's kind of making the easy list, but at the high end of the easy list. The views are amazing on this trail. I recommend if you do it to hike in a clockwise direction. It's a loop, because if you do it in the clockwise direction, then you'll get the best views of Mount Rainier in the second half of your walk. The path starts with a gentle climb through pine forests before opening up to the wide open meadows. And these are particularly amazing in the fall because there's all these huckleberry bushes that just turn bright red and orange. Super beautiful. You get like these fall colors and then the snow-capped peaks of Mount Rainier. It's really something else. You'll gain about 600 feet in elevation as you go, so it's not completely flat. Just be mindful of this. Is at the high end of easy here. The elevation change is spread out pretty nicely along the trail, so it's not like one super steep section. There's plenty of spots to stop and catch your breath while taking in the views of not just Rainier, but also the valleys below and even Mount Adams on clear days. If you do this, I do recommend starting early if you can. The parking lot, which is at Tipsoo Lake, does does fill up fast, especially during the peak fall color season. And of course, don't forget to check the weather before you head out. The trail does sit at 5,400 feet elevation, so conditions can change quite quickly even in the summer. Number 3. Another easy trail in Mount Rainier National Park is the Grove of the Patriarchs Trail. The Grove of the Patriarchs Trail might be short, but it packs a big punch. It's just 1.5 miles. It's a 1.5 miles round trip, kind of a lollipop loop, and it goes through a grove of some of the oldest and biggest trees in the park. You won't get views of Mount Rainier here, but standing next to these 1,000-year-old Douglas firs really puts things in perspective. It's really kind of amazing. Really makes you feel small and significant in a cool way, I think. The trail starts near the Stevens Canyon entrance to the park and quickly leads you to this really cool suspension bridge. This was washed out and is being replaced, so check before you head out on this trail if it is up and running yet. The bridge goes over the Ohanapecosh River, and it's a really fun crossing that kind of sways a bit. The kids will love it. Once you're across, you're in for a treat. The boardwalk runs through a forest island where there's these massive Douglas firs, but also western red cedars. If you think about it, they've been there since before Columbus sailed to America. It's like really kind of blows your mind. I think it blows mine anyway. One of the things that makes this hike extra special is that it is awesome, but it's also easy. The path is mostly flat. There's a boardwalk, which keeps your feet dry and protects the roots of the trees, of course. So it's perfect for families, for older folks, or anyone who wants to see something amazing without working too hard for it all. There are interpretive signs along the way that tell you about the giant trees. Some of them are like over 40 feet around. You're not in Sequoia land, but still very impressive. I really like going early in the morning or the late afternoon when you get not only for the crowds, but also the sunlight filters through the canopy. It's also quieter and you can really feel the age and the sort of grandeur of these trees. It's really very cool. Before we look at more easy Mount Rainier hiking trails, if you're watching this on my @National Parks Collecting YouTube channel and you haven't already, please like and subscribe below. It really does help. Next up is another easy to moderate trail, or trails. The Bench and Snow Lakes Trail is one of the hidden gems that not that many people do, actually, so it's kind of a nice way to get away from people. But it takes you to really pretty lakes. It's about 2.5 miles round trip. It's off the Stevens Canyon Road, and it's relatively short, not the shortest, but still pretty short, but really beautiful. One of the first things that you'll notice as you head out on the trail is really how peaceful it is compared to the much busier Paradise area that's not that far away. The path starts with a gentle downhill through the woods before opening up to Bench Lake. There are reflections of Mount Rainier on a calm, clear day that are just incredible. And then after Bench Lake, the trail does climb a little bit as you head towards Snow Lake. It's not too steep, but you will feel some elevation gains. So you do need to be mindful and aware of your own mobility before heading out on the trail. If you have very limited mobility, I would skip this one. But if you have reasonable mobility and looking for something a little bit at the challenge side of easy, then this is a great trail. Snow Lake sits on a little bowl surrounded by rocky slopes, and it's a perfect spot for a snack break. You've earned it, 100%. The water is usually pretty chilly, but on a hot summer's day, you might see some brave swimmers cooling off. But it's a bit too cold for me, but hey, everyone has a different tolerance level to the cold. I kind of hate it. But what I do really love about the trail is how different the two lakes are. Bench Lake is quiet and reflective, whereas Snow Lake feels more open and dramatic. The best time to hike the trail is July through September, when it is typically snow-free. Morning visits usually mean calmer waters, so if you want those mirror-like reflections, head out earlier in the morning. It does get kind of buggy in the summer, so take bug spray, and of course, don't forget your camera. Next up is a waterfall trail. Narada Falls is a perfect pick if you're new to hiking or if you just want a quick nature fix. The trail is just 0.2 miles, so this is very short from the parking area to the waterfall viewpoint. So it's one of the shortest trails in the park. It does have a little bit of an elevation gain. There's 100 feet elevation change on the path, so it's not good for wheelchairs or strollers. If you're okay with a little bit of a downhill, uphill walk that's very short, then this is really great. The walk from the car to the falls overlook is very straightforward. It takes most people about 10 to 15 minutes round trip, not factoring in time spent looking at the waterfall, of course. The path is partly paved, but it does include some stairs, and it can get a bit slippery when wet, so watch your step here, particularly if you're visiting after rain. The viewpoint is great. It puts you at eye level with the upper falls, giving you this perfect spot to snap photos or just enjoy the views, obviously. The waterfall splits into two really stunning sections as it drops below the rocky face. The upper tier, which is the main one that you see, plunges about 168 feet into this wide basin. The lower section spreads out into this fan-like pattern as it tumbles down another 20 feet. The falls are, like most waterfalls, particularly impressive in the spring when all the snowmelt kind of engorges them and makes them fuller and creates a lot of mist that forms rainbows on sunny days. So a sunny day in spring is best, but you can go anytime and still totally worth it. The trail is short, so it's good for kids. Older folks who have some mobility and are okay with the steeper sections, even though it is short. I've been there and seen people from toddlers to grandparents, and everyone's been enjoying it. But you need to be aware of your own mobility, obviously. And then from there, it is just a short drive to Paradise, to Reflection Lake, so it's very centrally located. So we're getting near the end already. We have just 2 more trails to go. It's hard for me to pick my favorite easy hikes in Mount Rainier National Park, but the Nisqually Vista Trail is definitely right up there. It's a really great trail. It's just 1.2 miles round trip, and it's paved the whole way, and it's mostly flat, so it is a great trail for beginners. It's a great trail for anyone who just kind of wants to take it slow and soak in scenery. And it's a great trail for families with strollers because it's paved. And the views are amazing. So you can start from a couple of different places. There's like a whole sort of network of trails in the Paradise area. But if you start from the lower parking area, so not the one up by the visitor center, but the first one that you come to as you're coming up the hill, then it's the closest. The trailhead's right there. Then you just follow this sort of really gentle path through these really gorgeous meadows. There's purple lupines. There's red paintbrush in July and August. But the main attraction here there's a series of several viewpoints where there are close-up views of the Nisqually Glacier with the mountain behind, obviously. They're at the far end of the loop, so it's kind of like a little lollipop loop. And then you can see this massive ice field stretching down Mount Rainier's face. It's pretty incredible to think that this glacier's been there for thousands of years. However, it's shrinking, like most glaciers on the planet, so it's less close than it used to be, but it's still very cool and still worth it. And go while you can still see it, I guess. I love how it changes throughout the day. Like the morning light hits the glacier just right, but afternoon visits mean warmer temperatures and often clearer skies. In the summer, the wildflower displays are stunning, while the fall brings these beautiful golden colors to the meadows. So it's hard to go wrong, really. Just whenever you're there, go and you'll love it. Try, if you can, though, to go when it's clear so that you see the mountain. And remember that though it is an easy trail, you're still at 5,400 feet elevation. So the weather can change very quickly, so I always recommend packing a light jacket. Just be aware that the path can still be snow-covered until late June or sometimes even early July. But then once the snow has melted for the season, then it's very smooth to walk around. So what's my number 1 easy hike in Mount Rainier National Park? So far, we have seen 6 amazing hikes. There's just 1 more left. Stay to the end to hear my absolute favorite easy hike at Mount Rainier. But before we do, you may be wondering, how can you do all of these hikes on a trip? They're not in the same section of the park, so you do need to coordinate getting to each one. You also want to be there at the best times for the best views, and you don't want to spend ages waiting in line to get through the entrance gate, for example, or circling around a parking lot waiting for someone else to leave. And maybe you're traveling with friends and family who are more gung-ho and want bigger and harder hikes than you do. And you still want them to have a good time, but you want to have a good time yourself. So you're up to do an easy hike while they're out doing something much longer and much more strenuous. So how do you do this, right? This is why I created super detailed itineraries for 1, 2, and 3 days in Mount Rainier National Park. These are my deluxe itineraries, so they include different options for doing alternate hikes and activities in the same areas of the park for people who want to do more physical activities, and then for non-hikers or casual hikers like yourself who want some easier options. You can find the link to the itineraries at the top of the description box below, but we can take a quick walkthrough right now. The itineraries start with a park overview and key practical information, and then there's a detailed schedule for each day, and then a breakdown of each activity with hiking maps and descriptions. There's driving descriptions and maps. There's the alternate activities in the same part of the park that I mentioned, and tips and timings and all of the information that you need in one place. With one of these itineraries, you'll know exactly what to do and when, and how to connect them all in a way that makes the most sense so that you're in the right place at the right time. Without this itinerary, people often find themselves struggling on how to coordinate their time to be in the right place at the right time and to see and do all that they want in the time that they have available. The itineraries will help take away the overwhelm, and they just give you all the information that you need in one spot so that you don't need to worry about missing out on a highlight of the park or stress on how to put everything together. Just follow the link in the show notes below. Now, as promised, what's my number one family-friendly hike in Mount Rainier National Park? My favorite hike that most people can do, and you absolutely should do if you can, is the Skyline Trail to Myrtle Falls. Now, the Skyline Trail is the most famous trail in the park, I think, and the whole thing is much longer and takes many hours, and there's a lot of uphill and downhill. But the walk on the one section of it from the Paradise area to Myrtle Falls is just amazing and much more accessible. It's also one of the easiest ways to get to an amazing waterfall view of Mount Rainier. So it starts at the Paradise parking lot. Here I would recommend trying to park in the parking lot near the visitor center just to minimize walking. But if you can only get parking in the overflow parking lot that's just down the hill a little bit, it's not that much extra. The whole hike is about a half-a-mile round trip on a paved section of the Skyline Trail. After Myrtle Falls, then the trail becomes unpaved, and as I said, it starts to climb much more. The park does have a slight uphill grade, so you gain about 100 feet of elevation, but it is spread out and most people can handle it without any trouble. Most people spend about 20 to 30 minutes on the round trip, including time for photos at the falls. Just remember that even though it is a short walk, you're still at about 5,400 feet in elevation, and that can affect some people, so take it slow if you need to. When you get there, the end part of the paved trail, you'll see Myrtle Falls, and this drops 72 feet through this narrow rock channel, and it creates this really picturesque scene. Like, you've probably seen it on a poster of Mount Rainier with the waterfalls. There's a little footbridge above it, and then Mount Rainier towering in the background. In the summer, the meadows around it all burst into colorful wildflowers. There's purple lupines, red paintbrush, yellow avalanche lilies. Really amazing. Now, there's a viewing platform that gives you the perfect spot to see the falls framed by the mountains. To get to that, you do need to go down some stairs. I haven't counted them exactly. It's not that long, like half a minute maybe, but it does take you down below the main trail so that you can see the falls looking up. And then there's the footbridge, which is part of the Skyline Trail, and then the mountain behind. So if you can do that, I highly recommend it. If you can't, then you'll still get a really nice view of Mount Rainier from the footbridge, but you won't see the falls from below. You'll see them kind of looking down on the other side of the bridge. In the morning, the light hits just right for photos, and you may even catch some rainbows in the mist, so it's a good time to go. course, always the falls are strongest in the spring after the snow melt, but they're really pretty in July and August when you've got all the wildflowers in full bloom. It is a very popular trail, so I always recommend going first thing in the morning. You'll beat the crowds, have really nice light. Perfect. If you want help planning your trip, check the links in the description box below. There's a bunch of planning and booking resources that you can use to plan and book your trip. And keep watching my videos to get even more help so that you can have the best national parks vacation ever. And if you want to get notified about the next episode, subscribe and click below.